Hello, I'm Tami Utley, and today we're going to be doing a Lambeth style cake. I have chosen a baby shower cake, but you can make this for any occasion just by changing the flowers and the center pattern that we're going to do. Lambeth is patterned after Joseph Lambeth. He's the one that came up with this technique. It's kind of a Victorian Baroque style of decorating of over piping. It uses bevels. He was a decorator from the early 1900s and wrote a book in the 1930s. It's a pretty rare book, and it shows how to do this technique. There have been many teachers around. I've learned from Betty Newman May originally, and then ended up taking a class from a school. But today we're going to do one of his simpler cakes. It's a pansy ring cake is what they call it, but we're not doing pansies, we're doing apple blossoms for our baby cake. First thing we're going to do is make some royal icing. The cake that we're going to use is a beveled cake. It's a 16-inch bevel, which I will show you how to make, and then a 12-inch cake on top of that. And it's going to be covered with fondant. You can make this cake and cover it with buttercream and use buttercream icing on it. You can cover it with fondant and use either royal icing or buttercream on top of that. You can modify this Lambeth style to make it more commercial. He was a commercial decorator. Some of his more ornate styles, though, were for showpieces. But let's go ahead and start and make our royal icing. The royal icing I'm going to use is just going to be a meringue royal, and it's going to be 1/4 cup meringue powder, 1/3 cup warm water, and a pound of sugar. We want to make sure that our meringue powder has no lumps in it, because we will be using a tip number 1. So this has kind of got some clumps in it, so I'm going to go ahead and use the sieve to go ahead and get the lumps out. Just going to go ahead and put it in. As you can see, there's quite a few lumps in that. We're just going to go ahead and just use I guess this has them. And just get the lumps out. Okay, I'm going to mix that together, get a little frothy, and then add my powdered sugar. It'll work. Okay, I've been mixing the frosting for 5 minutes, and as you can see, I've got nice stiff peaks now for my royal icing, so that's perfect. We're going to go ahead and start piping. I have fitted my bag. What have I got in here? I've got a number 5 tip in my bag, and I'm going to show you the first thing that we need to do for this cake. First of all, I want you to notice that these are actually half-size bags. These are small cones. I took a 12-inch bag and just cut the triangle in half. And you don't want to use a large bag when you pipe with the royal icing. What happens is your hand will eventually break down the royal icing. And we do recommend that you use parchment, because the heat, it takes longer to go through the bag to get to the frosting with parchment than it does with the plastic. But the idea is that these little quarter bags, they're easier to manipulate with your hands, which you really need for Lambeth style. And the icing tends to break down, and so what we do is we get rid of the bag and put new icing in. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is you need to make a pattern with 1 1/4 inch rings on it, circles. And that's what these are here. These are 1 1/4 inch circles, okay, which they just did a little scroll and make it look like a C scroll. This is just added icing to create more surface area for the rings to be more solid, and when you put them in the cake, these are going to be placed around the top of our cake. So what I've done is we've got 1 1/4 inch, and I've got some wax paper here and a number 5 tip. You can do a number 4 tip, but I find that the rings break easier with a number 4, so I tend to use a number 5.